What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Lethal Weapon 4, the fourth and final installment into the Lethal Weapon franchise. Richard Donner, Mel Gibson, and Danny Glover once again return in their final outings as both the co-stars and the director of the Lethal Weapon franchise. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to make this review as short as I possibly can. I overall really like Lethal Weapon 4. I don't like it as much as Lethal Weapon 3, but I like it on par with the first and the second movie. I think 4 is a hell of a lot of fun. And I remember seeing, a lot of trailers for this movie back in 1998 when it first came out. Now, I never saw the movie when it came out because I was never much of a Lethal Weapon fan. But I have a lot of memories watching like TV spots and the theatrical trailer for it, and it looked like it was a fun action movie, though I never got around to it. But after seeing it now, as an adult, over 22 years later, I can honestly say Lethal Weapon 4 is a hell of a lot of fun. Now, the fourth movie is not as, as dark or as somber as, let's say, the last three movies. 4 has a much more lighter tone to it. It's more of a comedy than it is a hard-boiled movie, as opposed to the last three movies. And that's what I appreciate about Lethal Weapon 4. It's a movie that's having fun with itself. It's almost kind of being self-referential in a way, without being self-referential, and I can appreciate that. And I enjoyed it a lot. The cast in this movie is, of course, spectacular. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, they are Riggs and Murtaugh. Their chemistry is untapped, and I like the directions that their characters go in. I like how Riggs is now being portrayed as somebody who is in his early 40s, and he's now starting to feel the same way Murtaugh was feeling in the first movie. He's officially getting too old to be a policeman, to be doing police work, and Murtaugh, on the other hand, he's going to be having a grand he's going to be having a grandson because his daughter is now pregnant. So, and Riggs is also going to be a father too. So their characters, they're evolving. They're getting more grown up now. They're reaching their middle age. Riggs is reaching his middle age, and he's going into fatherhood. Murtaugh, he's reaching his older age. He's getting up there in age too. He's going to be a granddaddy. So I like how these two things are affecting these characters now, and it's kind of like they're starting to question the police work, and more or less that they're getting too old to be doing this kind of thing, like going on these wacky, crazy adventures. And I like the directions that, and again, I like the directions that they take these characters in because it makes them feel like they've evolved off the course of the movies. Riggs went from being this, daredevil. Now he almost has to embrace his mortality in a way. Though he's still a daredevil and he's still the same Riggs. And Riggs does have a lot of really cool, funny moments in this movie. I think one of my favorite bits between Riggs and Murtaugh is when they become co-captains, and that entire bit to me is hysterical. I love it, and I also love the running joke where they have this new character called Lee Butters, played by Chris Rock, who is actually the father of who's actually the father of Murtaugh's grandchild. And I like the running joke of both Riggs and Murtaugh constantly saying his name wrong, which I think is a funny bit. And I enjoyed Chris Rock. I thought Chris Rock was a good addition to the movie. I think Chris Rock is extremely funny, and I like him in this movie. And I particularly love the scenes of Chris Rock and Leo Getz bantering back and forth with one another. You got these two, fast-paced talking guys just spouting insults and dialogue at one another, and it's hilarious. Pesci and Rock have a really good on-screen chemistry in this movie, and they have two really good scenes together. The first scene is where Pesci mistakenly thinks that Butters is a convict, and the next scene is where Butters and Getz are complaining about cell phones. Both those scenes are hilarious. Rock and Pesci are a joy to watch in those scenes. They are fantastic. Uh, Whew. So yeah, that stuff is fantastic. That stuff is great. The now the overall story of this movie is pretty much Gibson, Riggs, and Murtaugh pretty much have to stop the Chinese triad, who are pretty much taking control of illegal immigrants from China. That's pretty much the overall plot of the story. It's kind of convoluted in a way, and they have to take on Jet Li, who is like pretty much like the top guy, And Jet Li in this movie I thought was fine. This movie came out when Jet Li was on his rise as an international superstar in just North America and around the world. So he's a good addition. He's a good villain. He's memorable because he's a martial artist and it's Jet Li, and he does have a lot of entertaining scenes. And I do like how, unlike previous villains, the Jet Li villain, he's much more. He feels more dangerous. He's a man of very few words. He lets his actions do the talking, and he comes across as just very vicious and malicious. I like it. It's good stuff. Uh, and this movie also's got some pretty good subplots to it as well. There's a subplot of Danny Glover, taking in this Chinese refugee family, and I like the bonding that happens between them, particularly with the character of Hong, who is like the patriarch of the family. He and Murtaugh have a nice little moment together where Murtaugh gives him his father's watch. So I thought that was a nice, very touching scene between those two. I think the action scenes, the action sequences in this movie are much more grandiose, much more over the top, and they are extremely thrilling. The opening prologue, where Riggs and Murtaugh are trying to take on this guy who's wearing like this fire armor, just causing chaos as an arsonist. It's a hilarious scene, and the banter between Riggs and Murtaugh in the scene is hilarious. But I think the best scene in this entire movie has got to be the freeway chase scene. It's thrilling, it's exciting, it's got a lot of quippy dialogue in it. It's probably one of the best action set pieces of Lethal Weapon 4, and probably one of the best action set pieces of the entire Lethal Weapon franchise. I enjoyed it a lot. And I do like the ending fight sequence, and I do like the ending where Riggs and Murtaugh are taking on Jet Li's character. It's a very entertaining final battle where Riggs almost dies at the end. So I thought all that stuff was great. Everything in between this movie I think is also fine as well. Now, I will say this movie is really not as action heavy as compared to the last three movies. This movie is more or less built around is built more or less as a comedy than it is an action movie. Though it does have some really good action sequences, it's more or less just these characters just having fun banter with one another. And to me, that's what really makes this movie stand out, because it's focusing more on the comedic elements of the franchise, and the action, I'm not gonna say is downplayed. It is there, and it's really exciting, and it's really fun to watch. But you're kind of like, you want to get past the action sequences and just see these characters just interact and banter with one another, because that's where the movie to me is where it feels comfortable and where it feels at its strong suit. And I enjoyed all that stuff. I thought stuff was great. Richard Donner as a director, his skills by the time 1998 rolls around, Richard Donner's skills as a director is merely perfection. The action sequences are all well choreographed and all well done. The practical effects in this movie look fantastic. The cinematography in this movie is beautiful. Out of all the movies, this is probably the best looking of all the movies from a cinematography standpoint. It has a very slick, stylish look to it. It has a it also has a very rich color palette as well. Like, this is a really good looking movie from a color palette. It's very, very bright and vibrant, and I like all that, and I like it. It fits the aesthetic of the more lightheartedness, I'm gonna say, this movie's going for, and I think it does it fairly well. So yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on Lethal Weapon 4. I'm gonna give this movie a solid. You know what? The more I think about it, I like Lethal Weapon 4 more than I like 1 and 2, so I'm going to give Lethal Weapon 4 a solid 9 out of 10. I thought this movie was fantastic. I think it's a joy to watch. And the strongest parts of it are the comedy, but the action parts are just as good as well. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for Lethal Weapon 4. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.